Hey there, so we took our 3 kids to the South Island in the middle of winter in a motorhome for a holiday, and we just had the best, most amazing time ever. See a lot of questions of people asking what to do in the South Island, so we made this little video so that you get some ideas of some places to go and some things to do with your kids. Because boy do we live in a beautiful country. These are the spots that we got to on our road trip, mostly in the lower part of the South Island. So the alarms went off at 5 and we were up getting ready to go to the airport in Rotorua to fly down to Wellington and then on to Christchurch. It was the first time that the kids had been on a plane, so it's safe to say we were all pretty excited, especially about the takeoffs. And after a yum cookie and a cup of tea, we were in Christchurch ready to pick up the motorhome. There was no mucking around. We grabbed our groceries in Hornby at the countdown and we were hoping to get to Lake Tekapo before dark. But we were going to fail, so it was time to get the kids ready for bed after a long day of travel. In the morning it was pretty squishy in the motorhome while kids tried to get dressed and have breakfast. I was really keen to check out the Mount John track. Not so sure it's suitable for kids in the winter. It's about 8.5 kilometres, but the views are amazing. I didn't have long though because there were other places that we needed to check out before we headed off to Mount Cook. Definitely worth grabbing a coffee and letting the kids have a play. Now the drive from Tekapo to Aoraki Mount Cook is incredible. You just want to pull over every corner to take photos, and luckily there's plenty of good spots to stop and pull in. Hey Riley. We arrived at Mount Cook Village and there's heaps of walks to do there. We wanted to do the one up to the Hooker Lake, which is right at the base of Aoraki Mount Cook. And our kids are reasonably fit, so we thought they could handle the 10-kilometre return journey. Heaps of cool bridges and cool views, and this is the Hooker Lake, magic. We spent the night at the Glentanner campground because we weren't sure if the motorhome heater was going to keep us warm enough, so we wanted to plug the real heater in. But this place has some incredible views of the mountain, so the kids got ready and we went for a little hikoi down to the headwaters of Lake Pukaki, which was just incredible and definitely worth the hike straight from the campground. And if it's cold enough, you might get to walk on the frozen mud. But we were once again on the road heading south. We wanted to hit up a place called High Country Salmon, which is just out of Twizel. And this place has awesome reviews and some really good food. You get to feed the salmon for free, which is great, and a cool activity for the kids. And man, the colours of the water are just awesome. Some delicious cheese rolls and a salmon Thai green curry with a bagel. And from here we headed to Lake Benmore, which we expected to be rather empty because it's not really on the main way, but it's just beautiful through this part of the country. It's a really good walk to do. It's got some spectacular views over the lake. There's a lot of freedom campsites around here too, so we chose a good spot which we were all by ourselves right on the edge of the river. It was good to have a slower afternoon after a couple of busy days to enjoy the space we were in and enjoy looking out our windows. And then we were off south heading to Wanaka. Went over the Lindis Pass, and as soon as we got there the weather was just so good I needed to hit up Roy's Peak while the weather was great. This is an iconic walk in Wanaka, or in New Zealand, and a lot of people do this. You might recognise this photo here. Plenty of people take their kids up here, but it is a very long walk. You're climbing over 1,000 metres and you've got a 16-kilometre return journey. We camped at the Mount Aspiring Holiday Park, which was close to Roy's Peak and to Wanaka, and it had a hot pool which was nice to soak in. We were up bright and early with the frost, heading to Puzzling World before it got too busy. Puzzling World is definitely worthwhile. It cost us $77 to get in as a family, but there's a lot of laughter and you're there for at least a good 2 or 3 hours.
a Wanaka tree! Yay!
The South Island was getting really cold. We had a high of 5 degrees this day. So we took the kids to the hot pools to warm up and have a soak, and also to have a shower. Very affordable, only $21 for our whole family to have a swim. We carried on our journey towards Cromwell. We stayed at a place called Galley, which is a freedom campsite. It's got toilets and rubbish and recycling, which was really good. And we headed on our journey towards Alexandria, where Soph was hiring a bike to ride the Central Otago Rail Trail, where she started and ran fairly. So me and the kids went and did some exploring around Naseby, had a look at the ice parks, and it was actually quite warm. The scenery in this area is beautiful, and being me, I just love the cold. And Ophir has New Zealand's coldest recorded temperature, and this is an old bridge in Ophir where the gold miners used to collect gold. But we camped right at this spot here on the river between Omarama and Ophir, which was a great spot for getting freezing. Kids had pancakes for breakfast. Soph jumped on her bike and finished her ride into Alexandria, and we did a bit of exploring before she finished her ride.
Big truck behind you. Freezing cold.
I was trying not to stop so many times.
Here's a bit of a map of where we've stayed so far, from Lake Tekapo through to Ophir in the middle of Central Otago. But then we were off to New Zealand's tourist capital, Queenstown. So we stayed at the Queenstown Lake View Holiday Park, which didn't really have a view, but it did have some good facilities there. Now the sun goes down really early here, like 1:30 the sun was gone in the afternoon. But it was close to everything that we wanted to do, and a little pro tip, if you get an annual pass for the gondola in Queenstown or Rotorua, you can use it for a free gondola ride at either of these locations. Our kids are still a bit too young to do the luge by themselves, so we just went up to enjoy the beautiful view, but it was freezing cold up here. There was still frost on the ground from the night before. There's some really good eating options around Queenstown as well, and if you go early, there often is some good family deals going, so have a look around. In the morning we were down to the waterfront to go on the K1 jet. It was about 0 degrees, and when you're going about 90 to 100 kilometers an hour in a jet boat, it gets pretty cold pretty quick, but it was a lot of fun. Definitely worthwhile going, even though it can be a little bit pricey. We were a little bit worried that Toby was going to freak out, but he just had the best time. He wanted to sit by himself and be like a big kid, and he was only 4 at this point. And after a freezing cold boat ride, it was time to warm up with some Ferg burger, which is a must do in Queenstown. They do really big burgers with heaps of really good fillings in them. And then we were off, leaving the big smoke of Queenstown. We did some shopping in Frankton, and we were planning to stay at a freedom campsite just before Kingston. This drive below the Remarkables is beautiful. We just again wanted to pull over at every corner just to capture the beauty. It was here we camped for the night. What a beautiful spot, eh? Cost you nothing. They had some fantastic toilets as well and plenty of space to camp. I have to show you these toilets. And then our travels took us further south to Te Anau. I really wanted to check out part of the Kepler Trail, which is one of New Zealand's great walks. This is a really cool 3-night tramp, or you can just park up at a spot along the lake edge and have a picnic lunch and just do an out and back. But climbing to the top, once you come out of the tree line, you're rewarded with some really beautiful views of the Southern Alps, especially when the weather's nice. Time to race the sun back down to our campsite where we were staying at Anau Getaway Holiday Park. This is a pretty small campground, but it's got some good facilities and some hot pools you can hire as well. We did a few little walks around Te Anau before we did the big drive into Milford Sound, which is amazing. The Eglinton Valley is one place I wish we got to spend a little bit more time, but we were a little bit rushed, but there's a lot of cool campgrounds beside rivers here. Beautiful spot. Then there's the well signposted Mirror Lakes, where there's often a good view of the mountains below. But we found this gem of a place, Lake Gun. It's about a 2.5 kilometre loop walk, and it's really nice mossy forest, lots of green and just nature at its best. It was awesome seeing the fog start to clear and you got little glimpses of the mountains up above.
Beautiful. It's beautiful.
And the kids took their opportunity to grab a drink of that nice mountain water. But we continued on this drive, which just kept giving us awesome places to stop and take little photos and videos. This drive is honestly spectacular, one of the best drives you'll ever do. Cold, yes, it was very cold, and the weather in the South Island actually just continued to get colder. The hoarfrost was about to come out. It's definitely nice being in the motorhome for the kids. They're able to do a few activities and play some games at the table together rather than just being stuck staring at our headrests from the back seat. The 1.6 kilometre Homer tunnel is pretty awesome, lots of icicles hanging off the ceiling, and when we came out the other side there were all these kia. Kia are a native alpine parrot in New Zealand. And then the beautiful Milford Sounds and Mitre Peak. Milford Sound Lodge is the only place you can camp down here. It's about $80 a night, but some really good facilities considering how remote and isolated you are. It was pretty frozen here as well. And there's a good walk from the campground following this river down to Milford.
Beer and tow?
Got to get a video of the swing for Instagram. And these are some of the facilities inside the accommodation, so pretty comfortable. In the morning it was a very heavy frost. We made the most of skating around in it before our boat cruise, and we were pretty lucky to have the perfect day for going on a cruise out on Milford Sound. We went on the Go Orange boat, which was really good. We got lunch on there as well, which was nice, and our kids were desperate to see dolphins. Being the rain capital of New Zealand, it's not often you get weather this good. But look, here come the dolphins, and here is some happy children. Doing this boat cruise, any of them, they all pretty much do the same thing. You don't want to miss it, just pay the money. And then we were again off on the road, heading back through the tunnel and saying goodbye to Milford. We had plenty of stops on our trip back north because we were planning to drive from Milford Sound all the way to Cromwell, which is about a 6-hour drive. We knew the traffic was going to be really heavy the next day because of the ski field traffic, so we took our time. I even jumped in the back for a while just to keep the kids company and keep them a little bit distracted. The Freedom Campsite on the edge of Lake Dunstan, just out of Cromwell, is where we packed up for the night, but we were quickly on our journey, heading north, and this is where we experienced hoarfrost, which I have always wanted to see and was just completely wowed by. I pulled over so many times, much to the disgust of my family. A quick stop off in Omarama to empty all the tanks, fill up with some fresh water and grab something yum to eat before we went to the Clay Cliffs, which is another awesome spot. Too many awesome spots, I reckon. It was a nice crisp -5 degrees here around lunchtime. People say that in summer it's about 35 degrees, so if you're here in winter, dress warm. We booked a night at Lake Ohau Lodge, which is more set up for the ski field. We weren't even by the lake, we were the only people in a motorhome here. We wish that we'd just stayed at one of the Freedom camping spaces, which would have been far better and we would have been right on the lake. This fog stayed around for days, so no good glimpses of the mountains if it's too fogged in, but a stop off to Twizel to go to high country salmon was definitely on our cards because it was so good. And a stop off at Lake Pukaki was a completely different scene. These trees were just iced. Meanwhile in Tekapo, the hoarfrost was melting out of the trees. It was time to go check out the pools and see how busy things were via the lake, which had frozen around the edges, so that was pretty cool to check out.
Not the edge, Abe.
Now the Tekapo hot pools are very expensive, cost us $86 for our family, but you can come and go as many times as you like in the day for that. So when the campground's right next door, it is kind of handy, and we did come back later on that night. The fog nearly cleared enough so that we could get a glimpse of the mountains before sunset, but not quite there. The next morning we were sorting out the motorhome, we emptied out all the water tanks, gave it a bit of a clean out and did the 3-hour drive back to Christchurch, back to the airport and hopped on the plane to Wellington. A good thing we did both times on the way down and back home was stopping off at Burger King, where they have some pretty good deals and it's right next to the airport. It was kind of sad to be home in Rotorua after such an awesome trip. You saw how great the weather was, but we look forward to our next adventure. If you've enjoyed this video, then think about subscribing to our channel and jumping on our journeys. We're planning some pretty cool things in the future and you're not going to want to miss it, so follow along.